That's 5 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to the three of you for coming on out here today. I wanted to actually just build on what my colleague was talking about. Mr. Khan, I was talking about the CHIPS and Science Act, the funding of that. I agree with you completely that, we want to make sure that we're doing that funding, that we're funding that particular initiative. But Mr. Evanina, you said something, I think it was kind of in response to what he was getting at, where you talked about this as sort of, you said something about the beginning of a bipartisan path or something of that nature. It sounded like you were saying that it's not only just about funding this particular initiative at this moment in time, but it sounded like you were saying that this should be a part of a broader trajectory. Is that correct? Could you elaborate on that?
Congressman Kim, I do, and I believe that 20 years from now, we'll look back at this particular CHIPS and Science Act as the beginning of the new way forward to combat the CCP. As we talked about, the CCP does not have that Western view of bifurcation between government, private sector, and the corporate world. They are one, and then we look at it differently. So I think when you look at, if we're going to compete with them in semiconductors and technology, we have to be more willing to look at, yes, our morals and values and our norms, but also what's the best way for America to finance our capabilities technologically moving forward, and that is with that public-private partnership.
Yeah, thank you. And Ms. Gorman, I want to bring you in on this because I was reading something in your remarks, and it sounded like you were talking about like there should be an iterative process, I think is the phrasing that you said. So I guess I just want to ask, do you agree with what he just said? Is there anything you'd like to build on?
I do, and I think what my colleague just said is that the CHIPS and Science Act is a start, and that means it can't be a one-time deal. This bipartisan achievement did make a dent in the decades of chronic underfunding from public R&D, but these technologies, if we know anything, are not static. And when the CHIPS and Science Act was passed, even large language models were not what they are today. Yeah. So we need a continuous iterative process where we evaluate to the best of our ability, what are the critical technologies of the future of the next 5, 10, 15 years? Where is China leading? Where are we leading? Where can we draw on our allies and partners and write that into our funding and into our public R&D programs?
Well, thank you for that. And I think that I wanted to add just that dimension on top of what my colleague was talking about, because absolutely we need to fund this particular iteration, this particular effort that's in front of us. But I really do hope that this is something that this committee can really dig into in terms of what role does investing in our own economy, investing in our own innovation play when it comes to this type of strategic global competition. And that's something that look, I recognize we have differences here. When it comes to the CHIPS and Science Act, this committee voted along party lines. Yeah, every single Republican on this committee voted against the CHIPS and Science Act. Every Democrat voted for the CHIPS and Science Act. So I get it. We have some differences here. But I really hope that we use and draw upon the expertise in front of us to try to figure out what form of this, what way can we try to come up with some type of agreement, and recognizing that it can't just be about trying to slow down China, trying to raise concerns about what their practices are, but also about investing in our own economy and our own businesses, our own efforts. And so I hope that, I wanted to just kind of use Mr. Wolf's words, because I just thought it was really illustrative here. So if you don't mind, I'd like to just quote you here. But you said, Americans must put our partisan differences aside to lead the globe in discovery and in influence. Congress can do this by quieting the shifting winds of annual scientific research funding and by affording academic institutions, small businesses, entrepreneurs, and investors the stability of compromise in service of the greater good. So I just wanted to say I really appreciated the way in which you're framing that. And I hope that this committee can engage in that kind of capacity and lift up into that kind of way. I want to just shift gears just for a final question. Ms. Gorman, we already talked a little bit about where AI is going, but in particular, it's something you said here, which is that you said we should encourage the United States to not emulate China's approach to innovation, but instead chart our own course. And one part of this I've been engaged is about privacy-enhancing technologies, whether or not that's something we should try to invest in significantly as an alternative to the concerns that we have on how China's using AI.
It is, and it's one of these areas where privacy-enhancing technologies and privacy-preserving AI currently are not the state of the art, and they do require government investment to champion our values. We are not going to suck up everyone's data, suck up everyone's DNA, and build the world's best DNA surveillance engine. But we do need to find a way to train AI systems drawing on the world's and on our data. And privacy-enhancing technologies is one way to unlock some of these discoveries, to cure cancer. In breast cancer research, for example, there is an inability to train AI systems on mammography data that would unlock enormous potential in diagnostics for the simple reason that hospital systems don't share data with each other. Privacy-enhancing technologies would allow us to do that in a way that prioritizes our values, and that's why we launched an initiative with the UK to build on these technologies.
Gentleman's time has expired.